we are teaching people, especially young boys and men, that there's something wrong with them, and there's something wrong with their nature, and there's something wrong with the way that they think and what they want in life. And although our food is a problem, our governments are a problem, our relationships are a problem, TV entertainment has its challenges, but the reason why, if you don't have a certain mission that your life is working towards, then you're just trying to make money or retire. And that's really not enough. A few years ago, if you would have told me that I'm going to be a masculinity coach, I would have laughed at you. And I would have said, no, I'm not going to be a toxic guy that hates women and things like that. That was my association. That was what I thought.
In this episode, I'm talking with Simon Goldwhite. Simon started his career in business right after his military service and is now a men's coach dedicated to helping men overcome nice guy syndrome. Passionate about personal development, he guides men to embrace assertiveness and leadership. Simon joined the army at 18, then moved to Sydney, where he found success in sales, and he invested that money in a business in Bangkok. Unfortunately, corruption and mafia involved led to the loss of everything. Undeterred, he returned to sales to finance his coaching certifications. Today certified as an executive coach, leadership communication coach, and NLP practitioner, he manages the largest men self-improvement Facebook group. Enjoy the episode. Maybe just one thing. If you enjoy the conversation, please give it a like at the end or follow our channel. It would help us a lot to invite more interesting guests and to talk about more interesting topics. Thank you very much, and here's the conversation. Welcome, Simon.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here. Love doing this kind of thing, just talking to interesting people. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really excited to talk about the main topic, I think, and that's the work that you do as a man's coach. So yeah, if I look at the work that you do, your website and my research that I did before, you talk a lot about masculinity and the man of today. So yeah, can you maybe start off by explaining a little bit why that topic is so important these days and how we as men have evolved over the coming years?
Sure. Yeah. So let me start by saying that I was the biggest nice guy of them all. That means that I wasn't very masculine, and I'm still working on it, still improving always. And I had a lot of work to do. I had to transform myself. And the culture that we experience today is not very pro masculinity. And in the past, I had no idea what masculinity actually is. And it's not what most people think. Most people think that being masculine is having huge muscles and being tough and fighting and being controlling and things like that. And couldn't be further from the truth. So a few years ago, if you would have told me that I'm going to be a masculinity coach, I would have laughed at you. And I would have said, no, I'm not going to be a toxic guy that hates women and things like that. That was my association. That was what I thought. And that transformed the more I dug deeper into understanding some major issues that we have with our culture today. In our culture today, we're trying our best to survive, to be happy, and we're trying to be very compassionate and kind to so many more people. As a culture, we're evolving and trying to welcome more. And this progress is great. But the problem is that we are teaching people, especially young boys and men, that there's something wrong with them, and there's something wrong with their nature, and there's something wrong with the way that they think and what they want in life. And all those are wrong. Of course, we have to educate ourselves and we have to sometimes make mistakes and learn, but this is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a process, I'm going to say it very quickly, from the pretty much the industrial revolution in Europe 200 or 300 years ago, where fathers who used to be our role models to for masculinity and used to be close to home, teaching us how to be a man, teaching us how to have a craft, they've been gradually going further and further away from their children, spending less time with them.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, we've been putting kids into classrooms with a teacher where as young boys full of energy, have to look at a board and remember things that are not interesting to us and sit
Mm-hmm.
down and be good. And that's just very, very traumatic to boys who their nature is to run around, climb on trees, play, do sports, use their body. So in many ways our nature today is being ignored and in toxified. We're being taught that it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's something not healthy, that has dire consequences that we can see in plain sight today, but maybe not everyone is associated.
Yeah, I think there are many topics that we can dive into if we are talking about men. One important one is man in relationship with woman and how that has evolved over time, actually. Um, but yeah, what I understand from what you said actually is that, yeah, there are more and more problems with younger men. So it's like the newer generations actually that are facing issues and that they have difficulties in really finding themselves who they really are and what they should stand for and what role they should play in society. Um, can you maybe talk about what is the cause of all of that? Is that through social media? Is that through, yeah, different values, things that are changing in our society?
Okay, so as I said, fathers have been absent more and more, even in a stable family where parents are together, which is becoming more and more rare and hard to find. you know our role models for masculinity are working way too hard, many hours, stressed over money, scared, dependent on a company and policy and a government to you know that can take everything away inst- instantly. This is at least the situation in the West. So
Mm,
we most people don't grow up experiencing what it is to be calm, to be focused, to be clear on your goals. And we most people certainly don't receive that guidance and leadership from our fathers. And this has been a generational thing for basically since the Industrial Revolution, because what happened then is that basically we had classes, and maybe
mm-hmm,
I'm going pretty deep into history, but I think it's important. We had classes, we had, nobility who were rich and owning land, and we had peasants that were working the land. But at least they lived together in family units,
mm-hmm,
supporting each other and were together, and fathers could be there to teach and guide their children and show them what's right and what's wrong, at least. But since the Industrial Revolution, companies and corporations really started dehumanizing people, and the work life balance became just absent because people started to work in coal mines in terrible
mm-hmm,
conditions, or in factories in, again, terrible, stressful conditions where humans aren't even valued. You could be fired for any little thing. And your employers, if you look at the history of employment, they would cheat on you. They would make you work longer hours, cut your pay for every little thing. So it's just become gradually dehumanizing for people. And
mm-hmm,
what's happening in our culture today is that we have a We have governments that are basically led by corporations that they don't
Mm-hmm.
care about the needs of men and they don't care about the needs of women or children. It's mostly about money.
Mm-hmm.
That's the root of the issue, where people are not getting what they need, and when they don't get what they need, they can't provide that guidance and love and teaching to their children, and it just gets worse every
Mm-hmm.
generation in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And we're getting to the point where in the United States, I think about 70% of people are diagnosed with anxiety. About 50% of people, or the estimates at least, have depression. So you'll have either depression or anxiety or both. But
Mm-hmm.
this is just conservative estimations. I know that it's 100% of people that have anxiety in some way, shape, or form. They just don't know it.
Mm-hmm.
And depression is just becoming more and more prevalent. And it's directly linked because people just don't know how to lead themselves. They don't have role models and they're dependent on organizations, companies, governments that are not interested in them. Just
Mm-hmm.
simply not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Well, it sounds like that it's a general issue. It's not only with men; it's also with women. But what I hear you saying is, or part of what you said, I think, is like in a family, it's the absence of the male, of the father, meaning that actually kids are getting raised by a woman, which means that they don't have enough that masculine side in that education, and that's why they are not seen as of they are in balance. It's in balance. Their feminine side, masculine side, and it's in balance. It's no better way to express it, I think. So that's okay. That's what's going on. So what do you do with that as a man? How do you see, like, do we as men should work less and be more present in our families if we raise kids today, or how do you see that? What would be a way that we can break this pattern?
Yeah. So that's a very good question. And I want to just strengthen one thing that you said, that, also women are affected by this. And of course, like, just because I coach men doesn't mean I'm against women and this whole
Mm,
bullshit culture war where, like, we're fighting it. No, we're all in the same boat together.
mm,
Everything affects everything. So when men aren't getting what they need and aren't happy, then they can't do their job.
mm-hmm,
And when they can't do their job, everyone else suffers. And women are suffering a lot. And I think that they're getting less and less quality selection of high quality men that are compassionate, that can listen, that are also educated and successful, and also take care of themselves. And yeah, that's an issue. We're all in the same boat. So you're asking, how can we solve this? Now, here's where some of the things that I do come in. Of course, there's so many issues with society as a whole,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and I can't fix everything. And I just resonated so much with this particular issue of nice guy syndrome because I went through it
mm-hmm,
myself. So that's the thing that I am trying to solve. If I, for me, the way that I work and operate, I have one goal. If I'm able to make this idea of higher conscious masculinity just a well known thing, slightly well known thing in the West, then before I die, I can die happy. This is my only mission in life because I know that when people understand what masculinity and higher conscious masculinity is, they can start to balance themselves. They could give themselves the things that their families and their parents never were able to give to them. So the solution is
yeah.
basically to educate ourselves. Sorry, you had a question?
No, I was thinking like maybe it's also interesting to explain a little bit what is Mr. Nice Guy syndrome, because
Sure. Yeah.
some people are familiar with that, but not everybody, I think.
So, um, the nice guy syndrome, it's a pretty wide issue. And if we look at some characteristics of it, the biggest one is when men are acting as if they're okay, acting happy, they have a mask, it's fake, and they're working hard and they're just not happy inside, but they're faking it and they're trying their best to please their women, please their children, be the best father or husband that they can be, but inside they're suffering a lot and they're very insecure and needy and they don't know how to get what they want and they don't know how to lead as a man. So they're not getting the basic needs of men, which is basically to feel respected, to feel powerful. And they don't know how to be powerful. They're just not. They're needy. So I could go one by one over some of the characteristics, but that's if that would help. But how about I do that? Um, so the just a few quick top characteristics of what is nice guy syndrome is nice guys, they are stuck in this cycle where they're seeking approval, seeking validation, and that's
Mm-hmm.
not the natural state of a masculine leader. A masculine leader, he's supposed to be this calm force that's loving and giving, and he's very generous. But when we're not feeling good, we cannot be that. So that's why everything falls apart when a man isn't able to be a leader in his family and he isn't be
Mm-hmm.
there, he isn't able to support, a woman that's struggling to raise children. And all of this is backed up by a lot of science and statistics, by the way. This isn't just my opinion, what I'm saying here.
Mm-hmm.
The statistics show that, a lot of children are growing up without fathers, and that single mother families, children are not doing well, and
Mm-hmm.
that single father children, children that are growing up with a father, they're just doing fine. They're doing great. They're doing virtually the same on a academic level, on behavior level, on results in later in life. Now, this statistic might be triggering or insulting to some people, but it's the truth. And I'm saying this because we need to stop dealing with wars and fighting each other, and that's, I see that as kind of bullshit. I think we need to look at the real problems and understand and acknowledge that it's true. I grew up with a single mother. It wasn't easy. It just wasn't.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying that it's better to grow up with a single father than with a single mother?
Statistically, I never grew up with a single father, but statistically, children who grow up for whatever reason, we can interpret this however we want, but for whatever reason, statistically, children who are being raised by single fathers on average are doing virtually the same as children that have, a complete family. I
Mm.
don't exactly know why. I'm not going to here and say I have an idea,
Yeah,
but I'm not
yeah.
gonna say exactly why. I think that there's just a huge need for leadership,
Mm-hmm.
and the nature of men, of masculinity, again, is to be that guiding, loving force that's stable, and that's just so missing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, yeah, you're totally right. What is your ideas how women see men these days? You talk about that for a woman it's very difficult these days to really find a man
Yeah.
with all the requirements that they they prefer and that they maybe should have. But on the other hand, I think also woman or a category of woman doesn't make it very easy for men actually to be themselves. There's a lot of judgments around men. There's a lot of expectations around men. Yeah, and then sometimes I feel there's a lot of criticism as well. And at the same time, they don't give men really a chance to be themselves. It can be very threatening for men.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
we are in this kind of a vicious circle in a kind of way.
Yeah. So, as you said, I manage one of the largest, probably the largest men's Facebook group. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
an issue that keeps coming up is is, blaming women. It's just very common.
Mm-hmm.
Blaming women, anger towards women that don't accept you and things like that. Now, I think that women should have very high standards because they want they need to they're the ones stuck with the kids in the end. They don't need to be stuck with a kid and their father is, very immature, can't provide, can't protect, can't be there to support them. So it's just logical and it's natural for women to have very high standards. It's totally fine. I get it. Um, and I think that in a way, a lot of guys are gonna hate me for this. It's up to them to step up
Mm-hmm.
because women aren't deciding, oh, I'm going to be picky today. They don't wake up one day. They're just following their nature. Just like I think men should embrace and follow their nature to lead and to be strong. Women are mainly just following their biology and their nature. They want high quality men. So if you become that, if you invest in yourself instead of complaining about it, then you will have plenty of opportunities to mate and reproduce. I promise you. It's
Mm-hmm.
gonna happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you
Yeah.
are blaming and angry, like a lot of guys are, then that's gonna get you nowhere. That's not
Mm.
masculine to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The question is then how you become like that if you are actually raised in a single mom family and you never had this example of a father and how it is to be masculine, to develop your masculine side. So how do you start with that? Well, how do you realize
Well,
what am I missing in my life, and what do I need to do instead of like working hard, making good money, going to the gym? Like you said in the introduction, what you think that, of what most men think actually, that it's how they what they should do to represent themselves as a man. So yeah, what should they do?
so that's really different for each individual depending on what they're missing. So, I take men through a certain process. I help them uncover their unconscious feelings, negative emotions, limiting beliefs. And what the hell does that even mean? Most guys, this stuff will go over their head because they're busy struggling. So I'm not blaming or hating on men, but they're busy struggling paying the bills. Life is hard to do today, and there's not a lot of time for inner work. But I know that you yourself, I saw on Facebook, you just came from a healing retreat. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, you haven't told me about that, but I just know that you've uncovered a lot about yourself and you've let go of some things that have been holding you back mentally, emotionally. And every man should be investing in their own personal health and growth and mental health and educating themselves. I can't do this for them.
Yeah.
So to tell you exactly what you need to do, send me a message. Tell me a little bit about your story. I'll help you. But vague like this,
Mm.
there's books you can read, there's courses. I myself, I have a mindset and communication course because men need to learn how to communicate. Men need to learn
Mm.
how to think in a way that that is decisive and organized. They need to learn how to speak in a way that brings them respect. And that's really fucking hard. Excuse my French, but it's hard. That takes
Yeah.
years and years of training. So men are actually supposed to suffer. They're supposed to go through their early years, 17, 18, 19, knowing nothing, understanding nothing,
Mm-hmm.
feeling like they're worthless, overcoming it by taking action and learning and investing in themselves and becoming amazing, productive um, machines, if you want. Now,
Yeah.
another thing that I help men go through, basically the cure for nice guy syndrome, is finding your life's purpose. Now that
Mm-hmm.
might sound like woo and like something that is hippy dippy, you know, but it's actually very very practical. It takes
Mm.
clarity work. The reason why is because if you don't have a certain mission that your life is working towards, then you're just trying to make money or retire. And that's really not enough. Our nature, again, respecting our nature, we are meant to do a lot more. And
Mm.
if you are, you know, dishonoring yourself by thinking that you're supposed to just work in a factory for 12 hours a day and then save money and then grow old and die. For
Yeah.
some people that's enough and they're happy, and I'm not knocking on that, but I know that we're meant for more. Just wrong.
Yeah, but that's I think what's what most men have taught actually from their parents and their environment is to
Exactly.
you're here on this planet actually to reproduce yourself, to create a family, to work and to provide the family, and that's about it. And just enjoy the journey, you know, raising kids, going to work every day, and waiting until the kids are out of the house, and then you have some time to spend together a little bit if you're still together. You can do some traveling, and that's life. Yeah, that's how I knew it actually for most of my of my time. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not wrong, right? But most people are not doing this honestly.
Hmm.
Most people, even if your purpose is just to be a father and a husband, that could be amazing. But most people are not authentic. Again, they're being a nice guy. They have this mask on. They're acting like they're happy,
Yeah.
but they're not feeling respected. They're not feeling loved. A lot of men are not even having sex. They're not having intimate relationships with their wives because they don't know how to take care of themselves. So even if your purpose, what you're trying to do is you're just trying to be a humble father, work, do your best, that's okay. But
Mm.
be honest about it and take care of yourself. And guys, they're they're just so not encouraged to do this. And there's so much
Yeah.
ignorance around their own feelings that they're not even doing this in an authentic, real way. Does it make sense what I'm
Mm.
saying?
Yeah. It makes totally sense, actually. It's just we're just doing what we are taught, and that's what I actually repeating myself. But that's the only thing we know, so that's what we are actually going to do. But at the same time, we never learned actually to discover our real self, our real emotional side of ourself. And then we can go to okay, what's mostly going on there. It's the relationship towards the mother, it's the relationship towards the father, it's some certain things that you have been missing in your childhood that pops up in all kind of circumstances in your life. And we don't know what's going on, we don't know how to work with that, what to do with that. So the only thing we do is like we're going to work harder, we're going to make more money. So I think that's what is going on. So I think we have to go deeper and going to the root cause. Actually, okay, what is actually wrong? Is there something wrong? What is wrong? And what do I do with that?
Yeah, absolutely. We are now awake. We're talking, you and I. We're
Mm-hmm.
using our brain. We're using maybe 5% of our conscious mind. And there's just a huge mountain of emotions. There's a story, a complicated story of
Mm-hmm.
how you got from, your inception until now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's, generations before you that came that affected you and taught you, and there are lessons that are rippling throughout the history to bring you here. So I'm trying to keep it very as simple as I possibly can, but this is like such a huge thing, and
Yeah.
it it's complicated. It's complicated, and we need to, if we want a happy, healthy life, we need to understand that it's not just about money,
Mm.
that working harder often will take away your happiness and satisfaction in life. And we need to heal our issues and find our root issues. And we need to do things that are aligned with us, with our life.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
our culture does not recognize and understand and acknowledge. So we're doing things wrong. All people are doing everything wrong, basically, in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's not so good news, actually.
No.
But yeah, I'm curious. So you started off
Yeah,
actually by saying I was probably the most nice guy in the world.
yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
very curious about your story actually, and I'm sure the listeners as well. Like how did you came to this point? So when did you discover, "Yeah, I'm actually a nice guy"? Maybe it was there's a book about that, right? Mr. Nice Guy, something
yeah,
like that. Was that the first moment, or was it something else? And how did your direction in life changed from that moment on?
yeah. Thanks. So I was um, technically married on paper uh, to a woman that I felt like I loved very much and I was very dedicated to. And I cared about her a lot for sure, but love and happiness was out of the question for years by then. We were not
Mm-hmm.
happy and we were codependent, just staying together because it was mainly convenient more than we were enjoying being together.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually she had the guts to leave, and I commend her for it. It was the best, one of the best things that happened to me, but at the time it was crushing. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of guys that are nice guys are experiencing divorce. Their women are fed up with them one day and they leave them. And what happened was I found the book No More Mr. Nice Guy, as you mentioned. It's a book that I heard about a lot, and I was thinking, I'm feeling so bad. Why don't I just read it? And you know what's uh, it's just an amazing, amazing transformation from the very first page I read, and I was just hooked. I was, wow, this is me.
It's just me.
This is who I
Yeah.
am. This,
Yeah.
like every single page, and I read it once, and then I read it again, and maybe I read it again in a very short, maybe in a week. Read it 3 times,
Mm,
and that was so transformational for me because not only did I discover my problem, I discovered my coaching niche. By then, I was already a qualified, certified coach. And one of the characteristics of a nice guys always try to control other people and change them and coach them. And that's exactly one of the things that I was doing, putting stress on my ex
mm,
instead of just being chill and taking care of myself and giving her love and support. I was trying to change her. I was trying to force her to heal and to think about always doing these things that I didn't even know I was being controlling and
mm,
needy. And then I opened this book, and it's just written so brilliantly and so simply. It all clicked to me, and I I just read it many times after that. And then I found another book and another book and another book. And as I was coaching, I started to be asked questions about this because naturally it was coming up a little bit, and eventually I just understood that this is something that I could really help people because I've been through it and I understood it extensively, and I enjoy it. It's aligned with what I want to do. So it naturally became something that I dedicated literally my life. It became my purpose eventually, not overnight, but it took years. I started, some men's groups, and I started coaching one on one on this, and the transformations that I've been helping facilitate for people is just amazing.
mm-hmm.
What I mean is by men starting to love and respect themselves and then becoming much better fathers, much better husbands, being able to listen to their wives instead of controlling them, being attentive and nurturing and leadership and a role model for their children. So I see my work as shifting and creating, a new ripple in just in our culture and society, and I hope to make it huge to help
Mm-hmm.
a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's what they say these days, healthy masculinity, right? So a lot of people don't really know actually what that is, and yeah, I guess there's still a lot of work to do. But it
Yeah,
always the way brings you back to, yeah, issues and emotional suppression, trauma that you have. So if you work with men these days, so how does the journey look like? And yeah, you already said like it's for everyone a little bit different. But do you see a lot of commonalities? Do you have like a kind of process that you use when you work with men specifically, or is it
Yeah.
really so different for everyone?
So I work the way that I work, and whoever works with me, they're aligned with what I do, and I have a process. It depends on each person. You said something very interesting. You said like healthy masculinity as opposed to low conscious masculinity, and that's actually what I'm teaching. I'm teaching something called higher conscious masculinity because I just want to take a moment before I answer your question on how I
Mm-hmm.
actually, what is my process, is to lay, the ground. It's, for example, I've been traveling around the world. I've been living in Asia, in many countries. And, in a certain environment, let's say in great poverty, I've been to Cambodia. There's a lot of poverty over there. Higher conscious masculinity, that means being loving and, chill and being this supporting, loving man. It doesn't always work. It will be more difficult in a place that people are really struggling. So in
Mm-hmm.
lower conscious states where there's survival, we're talking about survival, poverty, drugs, alcohol, that's all linked to lower consciousness. Then you have a version of masculinity that's what people call toxic. It's controlling, it's demeaning, it's possessive, that exists.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the other side of that coin is higher conscious masculinity. It's being a leader, detaching, almost like a Buddha. Okay, we're not
Mm-hmm.
not quite there, but detaching yourself, not being reactive, just giving love and support as much as you can. That is the epitome of higher conscious masculinity, without needing to control, without needing to force anyone to do anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when you do that, when a father is able to do that, then suddenly his children are coming to him for advice. Suddenly his woman, his wife or his girlfriend, she wants to make love a lot more because he's not being possessive, because he's just feels strong and he's giving her that sense of safety and security.
Mm-hmm.
Women are very sensitive to feeling scared. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the kind of effects that men that I work with start to experience. Their wives trust them more. Their children come to them to ask for guidance and advice. At work, they are more respected and appreciated. They get paid higher salaries. They're given opportunities because they become more of a leaders and less needy and less
Yeah.
taking and more men. By giving, we give a little bit and actually we get so much more. It's yeah. So back to your question about the process that I take men through. The process is big picture the same for everyone. We have to understand that, become self-aware. We have to become self-aware of our wounds, of our nature. That means that some men will be very naturally angry and possessive, but there's a reason for that. Usually in your childhood, your trauma, your parents, what they've been through. So to understand that and become a master of your own inner self is step one. When you are more self-aware, then you have more control over your life. You're not just reactive.
Mm-hmm.
And then after this, the next stage is to understand what is it that you really are passionate and love doing, and go through a self-discovery process. Some men, they love music. They're so passionate about composing or connecting people. Some men, they just love technology. Something about it fascinates them. Me, I'm fascinated by people. I could just talk about people and listen to people for hours.
Mm,
So we have to discover what is it that we're trying, that we love doing and could be just so amazing at, because it's so interesting. If I was to be an engineer, I would be miserable and happy, and I would have to put on a mask, and then I would get trapped in the money
mm,
making game because I have to pay for a mortgage and I have to fund my family and provide for them. But that profession, even though I might be pushed into it, it wouldn't be aligned to me. I'm way
mhm,
better, healthier, happier, coaching people, guiding people, teaching.
mm,
That's my nature, and I embrace it and I flow with it. And then after I help people understand their nature, I help people make a clear plan on how to transition. A lot of people, they're working corporate jobs that they're very unhappy
mm,
with. So they need a gradual plan on how to start taking action, because a lot of men are scared, they feel trapped.
yeah.
And I help them, create this transition between a fake life, a fake mask, and starting to embrace what they want,
Mm,
embrace what they need, speaking up, standing up for themselves, stop taking bullshit from people, and create an authentic existence.
mhm, yeah. Yeah, when you're explaining that, I start to understand, and I already did actually, but the importance of the guidance in that journey by someone like you, because we haven't talked about it yet, but for men, I think, and also for women, it's the case actually. There is one important thing to take into account is the ego, and the ego always wants to be fed, and if you look into what is seen as masculinity traditionally, working hard, making good money, if you have chosen a certain direction in life actually, and you're on that path, and then when you start to discover that you don't feel happy with what you're actually doing, and you don't make your surroundings happy, your partner, your family, and whatever, you need to change. And that's actually what you advise people then to do, to make a change, to make more time for other things. But that can have an impact on what you're actually already doing, spending a lot of time on your work, making money. So, and yeah, I think there starts to become a conflict with the ego, because it's and I can feel that myself too. It can be scary to choose another direction, stepping away from something that you know, that you think it works for you, but actually you know it doesn't. And then there is a gap in between, right? That you have to come over. And I think in that stage, guidance is super important. Um, can you elaborate on that a little bit more? Maybe based on some experience with clients that you have. How do clients experience that? Maybe some successes that you had there, or some feedback from clients, or maybe sometimes it didn't really work out and people just stick where they are and they can't get out of it.
Okay. So you hit the nail on the head with the ego, the fear, and the ability
It's
to accept what's going on, what's really going on. And I have two types of clients, basically. The type of client that is just about to get divorced because their wife is sick of them, or they are so unhappy because they've been living an inauthentic life for so long and they haven't taken any action, or the guys who've already been divorced. Because
Mhm.
usually, why? It's because of our ego that's attached and afraid of change and afraid to look at the truth, that most guys really need a huge slap in the face to wake up
Yeah,
and change. And I did too. Also, I'm just lucky. I was a lot younger than the most of the guys that I work with, and I didn't have children. But it becomes way more complicated after you've been married for 20, 30 years,
yeah,
and you woke up one day and you're just like, I have about 20 good years left. What the fuck am I doing? I'm miserable. I hate my job. My kids don't respect me. My wife hasn't slept with me in a month, two or three, half a year. We barely
yeah.
speak. These are the kinds of guys that they wake up and then they start to look for answers. And that's just normal. That's just the nature of things. I would love to help you, 10 years before that, so that you can create that wealth and that success and that authentic existence. But that's that's not what humans do usually. So about specifically about the ego, about the fear and transition, is that what you were interested in, or was there something else? Could you elaborate a
No,
little
yeah,
bit
I
more?
haven't mentioned fear, but it has a lot to do with fear, definitely. And then also, yeah, the ego doesn't want change. I also mentioned that
Yeah.
because yeah, you have reached a certain position in your life, and that can be seen as a form of masculinity. I'm in my masculine power. I'm providing. I'm making money. I drive a big car, whatever. Um, but then, yeah, you start to realize that okay, it's not about that. There are many other things, and I don't feel happy. So I have to step away from that idea that this is actually what is masculinity, and that actually. So stepping away from that, which is like kind of in a comfort zone, and then going into another direction. And you always have to sacrifice certain things, and that's I think what the ego doesn't want, and what makes you afraid.
Yeah. So I've worked with some top CEOs in Asia, millionaires,
Mm.
have the biggest car, have the biggest house, have a lot of money, and they're miserable.
Mm-hmm.
They're not happy. And again, some people label this as a midlife crisis where you wake up, you're 45, you're 50, and you resources, but you're just not um, happy. And
Mm-hmm.
what keeps us going and doing these kinds of things is I think a lot of men think that this is what they want and this is what's going to make them happy. If I have a six pack and if I have a car and a house and I have savings in the bank. But to be truly happy, it's not an external thing. It's an internal thing first.
Mm-hmm.
Our internal reality creates our external reality.
Yeah.
And the thing is that if you're smart and you're hardworking and you're dedicated, and if you're enough of a nice guy, because a lot of nice guys, they feel like they're not good enough, so they work so hard to prove. They're always trying to prove. Like when I was in the army, for example, I wanted to be a fighter because
Mm-hmm.
I had to be a fighter. Can't be, one of those losers that doesn't fight. I have
Mm-hmm.
to prove, right? Because that means I didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel like I'm enough.
Yeah.
I had to show externally, look, everyone, please accept me, look at me. So that's the ego that we need to let go. It has its
Mm.
purposes, it keeps us alive, but it will not bring you happiness. It could bring you success. That's not the same thing. And
Yeah.
what happens is that some of these guys that are already making a lot of money and are very successful, I work with them and I help them go through this process, and there might be a dip, but these guys are just so intelligent and so dedicated and hardworking that after we go through this process, they end up making a lot more, even more,
Mm.
being more
Mm-hmm.
productive, making more money, having more opportunities with less stress, and just so much more fulfillment and enjoyment. And then they start to understand how much they've been holding themselves back and just trying to please other people and maintain this mask that presents to the world that everything's okay, I'm happy, I'm successful, but inside you're just not.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Obviously, there are different kind of categories of men. What you just mentioned actually are men that they are already successful, or they have been already successful in a certain part of their life, mostly through business, financially. And then actually they realize, yeah, okay, I'm not happy, and I need to change something in my life to make myself happy, and to feel more fulfilled. Um, so, but they have already one part done actually. So because yeah, if you're financially successful, then also yeah, having money is having time, having free time. If you're yeah, if you're in the middle of something, of course not. But let's for example, if you sold a company, you have a lot of money in the bank, and then you have free time. But there are also a category of men that even haven't done that. So and they struggle their whole life and they try to be successful. They maybe have made a certain kind of money, and then they realize, yeah, chasing money, it's actually yeah, that's not my purpose. That's not the only thing in life that's gonna make me happy. And if they need guidance by someone like you, they are in a completely different situation because at the same time they still need to make money, they still need to spend the time on that, and also at the same time they have to develop themselves. So that's a category I think which is much harder, and maybe also for you much harder to get as clients because they don't have the budgets maybe to be guided by someone like you or someone else. So is it a thing that mostly, and you mentioned that the type of clients that make that realization, these are the men that already did that financial success, and the others is just so much more difficult. I would think. Just yeah, firstly for them to realize that they need to change, and on the other hand to really take that step actually to yeah, to make that investment in themselves, and at the same time make money and chasing success. So do you understand a bit what I'm saying?
Yeah. So there are people that don't have the time and resources to do inner work and are stuck, struggling.
Yeah.
And honestly, my heart goes out to them because they're suffering a lot of people. But we have to make a few distinctions. Honestly, unfortunately, we're not living in La La Land and utopia, and the world isn't perfect. And suffering and discover their own leadership and strength within those, overcoming those challenges. That is a huge part of masculinity. It doesn't come easy.
Mm.
Okay, it's not easy. A lot of for women, it's a bit different. If you're pretty, if you're attractive, then you can say in some ways that life is a bit easier.
Mm.
It's not exactly like that, and there are a lot of challenges that men will never understand and men will never face. That only women will face. But for sure, men need to struggle. That's part of masculinity because we're born dumb, and it's only by going through these challenges and overcoming them we become wiser. and
Mm-hmm.
and there are a lot of resources today, not just me. There are many other teachers, there are many other books and guides that are doing amazing things for free even, but you have to make a decision and you have to look for it. I can't do that for you. You
Mm.
have to seek to grow and to heal, and if you're struggling, then I can't, baby you and tell you that everything is okay, honey. It'll be fine. No, you have to fucking struggle. You have to take action. You have to think. And for me, what I'm trying to do about this is I know that not everyone can afford to work with me. It takes time, it takes resources. Me myself, I'm trying to create a lot of high quality, affordable value, and there's just so much. It's never been, in a way, never been easier to raise your level of consciousness and to heal and to
Mm.
grow, because we have the internet and we have so many resources, but you have to take a lot of action. And for me, it took me about 15 years, 20 years until I started to really reap the rewards my hard work. It's not a lot of the materialistic mindset is that I want it now. I want to be successful now. I want to have money and freedom now. And I think that the younger generations and me, they're very impatient, I think, because
Yeah.
they're like 18 and they join a company and they want to be the CEO. Okay. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
It just isn't like that. Um, so they have to kind of like, go through that process. And if you believe that you can lead a company at 18 with zero experience, then go try. and fail.
Yeah, well, you can do
Um,
that if you have nobody
yeah,
working for you. You be you be the CEO of your own company, right? Yeah.
you can do well. You can do a lot of things. And you're asking again, basically, what can these people that cannot afford right now, what can they do? They can seek books. They can read. That's near free. It's very, very affordable. They can they can join. No, I'm trying to think. What can they do? It's a difficult question because the solution is not simple. It's not like you press a button and
Mm,
it's fixed. It just takes so much dedication and work, and nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming to
no,
do this inner work for you.
no,
You
true.
have to do it for yourself. So one piece of advice, if I can give to people, is that whatever it is that you want in life, if you want to, for example, be amazing at creating podcasts, so hang around Hank because you know how to do it and you are doing it, and you develop the mindset and the skills to do it,
I
right?
do
And
my
if
best.
somebody wants to, yeah, well, is- sorry, what was that?
I do my best. I do my best.
Yeah, you do your best, and but you're somebody that's taking action and doing it, so that mindset
Yeah.
it's good. Just an example. And if you want to be the best CEO, find somebody that can mentor you and teach you, and do fucking everything that you can to be around them, to help them, work for free, support them. I don't know, but you're
Mm,
not going. It's not going to, the opportunities and the learnings aren't going to come to you. You can go to university and pay. I don't know how much they're paying today. I never went to university. 20,000 a semester, 100,000. I don't care, and be taught by. You can see how I feel about this kind of system, but you can be taught
yeah.
by I don't know, exhausted, unhappy lecturers on how to do a business, or you can go out there and study and find the resources, or find
Mm,
somebody that's good at it, and you can do your role. I was very good at connecting with people and sales. My business partner, he was good at the details part of it and the management, and we made a team together and we smashed it.
yeah.
So
Mm,
you have to take matters into your own hand, and you
mm,
have to be around the people. And if you're hanging around people that are not inspiring you, that are taking away your energy, that are toxic, and you're not doing anything about it, then that's probably where you're gonna find yourself at 5 or 10 years later.
yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I think the key word what comes up in me is also patience, because I think
Yeah,
if you are at a young age and you are already aware of everything, and that there is much more in life than what you thought before, you should be already very grateful. Um, yeah, being in that
should
state.
be,
I think
should
so.
be.
I think so. And then it's a matter of just, yeah, being patient, and then, yeah, all the money that you make, that you still don't have, yeah, to just think about how to invest that in yourself. I think that's is super important, next to all the free resources that you just mentioned, actually, and that you make it your own journey, yeah, in your own pace.
I agree. When I took everything I had and opened the business, this was my university. That's how I looked at it, and I lost a lot of money, and I don't care because the knowledge and the experience that I got from that was priceless, life changing,
Mm,
put me on the direction that I wanted to be. So follow your passions, follow what's
mm,
interesting to you, develop that. Don't listen to people who are scared and unhappy in their life and unfulfilled. Listen to your own feelings, even if it brings you a lot of failure. Uber successful person, Elon Musk, that guy from Virgin, Richard
Richard
Branson, I
Branson.
think,
Yeah.
um, um,
Jeff
uh,
Bezos.
Jeff Bezos, Michael Jackson. How
Yeah.
how much did that guy suffer? And going just to the safe route and expecting good things to happen to you
Hmm.
without working hard and without sacrificing. It's just not the way that life works. Because going full circle, because we don't have fathers to guide us and to
Mm.
teach us these things, we have to pay the price. And it's a very, very heavy, difficult, painful price.
Yeah.
And if you do that, then I commend you, because you're kind of cutting a pattern in your family, in your generations, of just being domesticated and kind of being a slave to the system and waiting for good things to happen to you, and you're taking action. And that's so noble and so brave of you. And
Mm-hmm.
and whoever successfully goes through this, they have to go through a lot, but their life just eventually takes off, and amazing, incredible, unbelievable things happen.
Yeah. Do you see today that that change is happening? That men are really more conscious about how to raise kids and yeah, be there more present as a father. Do you see that happening?
Yeah, in many different ways. It can be taken in again, low conscious ways, because there's a lot of resistance to the government, a lot of resistance to education, to all those things. And that's happening because a lot of people are waking up to
Yeah.
things that are just not working so well, that are not in their interest. But that could be happening in a fear-based, low conscious survival mindset.
Yeah.
And also, a lot of people are taking responsibility in a higher conscious way, learning to educate themselves and empower themselves in a very high conscious way. So it's happening steadily, and it's
Mm.
enhancing. Technology is helping us and supporting us in many ways.
Yeah.
The wealth that we are accumulating is helping us as a whole. I'm talking about the whole of humanity. It's going in the right direction. We do have a lot of challenges, but I'm very optimistic.
Yeah, I can relate to that. If I just look at my surroundings with all remote work that we are doing more and more, we can be more with our kids. And at the same time, technology, as what you mentioned, is definitely also in our advantage. And then I see, and you already mentioned that a little bit, yeah, the school system that is kind of conflicting in this way. Yeah, sometimes I have these conversations about couples that want to have kids and that yeah are totally against the current school system and are thinking about yeah other ways actually to yeah be more with the kids and at the same time finding a good education plan for them can be a hybrid model online or then physically and things like that. So I think there is still some steps to take, but yeah I feel we're going into that into a good direction. It's all about the consciousness, being aware, and making good decisions around that.
Totally, man. Schooling is a problem. Our food is a problem. Our
Yeah.
governments are our problem. Um, our relationships are a problem.
Mm,
TV entertainment has its challenges, but people are waking up. People are starting to make decisions for themselves, and it's not an easy process. We have to go through it, and on the other side, I see a bright future. Yeah, definitely.
yeah, yeah, that's good. So yeah, if people wanna get in touch with you, wanna learn more about you, your work, where can people find you?
I'm most active on Facebook. They can search for me, Simon Goldwhite. I have my website if they're looking for more information, simongoldwhite.com as well. And, the best way is probably to just add me on Facebook or find my email on my website, and send me a message. And, I'm happy to help as many people as possible, or point them in the right direction, give them resources, even if they don't work directly with me, because this is really important to me, to
Hmm.
help as many people and share as much as I possibly can, because this isn't just about me. This is about our species and our generations to come. I'm very, very passionate about helping and raising the consciousness of men, at least, so that they could be leaders, and they could be feel happy and do more good in the world.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, totally. And I feel and I see that you're very passionate about that. It's also the reason why I invited you to become a guest here in the podcast. I think we covered a lot of interesting topics during this episode. So yeah, I really would like to thank you for that, and I'm sure that the audience have a lot of takeaways out of this. And yeah, if they're interested to get in touch with you, I will post all the links in the comments below here. And yeah, maybe there's one last thing you want to say before we end the episode. Is there something that we maybe haven't touched on or that you find important before we go?
We could just summarize and say that we're all in this together. It's not men against women or women against men. When somebody is suffering and doesn't know what to do and feels lost, then they're taking more than they're able to give.
Hmm.
And nobody wins this way. It's a lose situation. So we all have to start working together, empower ourselves, take more control over our lives, and stop wasting time on unimportant things like who is suffering more, who is the bigger victim, is it men, is it women? We just
Hmm.
have to look at problems, solve them, and improve our lives. And that's it, man. Thank you so much for inviting me. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. These are very wise words, definitely. What things that came up was like, yeah, stop comparing so much and just look more into ourselves, right? And develop the best version that we are. So yeah, thanks again for being here. I really appreciate the work that you do, and yeah, it's really enjoyable to follow you and to see what's going on and how you help all these men becoming more conscious, becoming the best version of themselves. So I encourage you to keep going. Thank you for being here. And yeah, I see you around.
See you, man. Thank you so much. See
Thank
you.
you.